exciting to watch these guys fight and also to know everything that's at stake for these two. You know, for Stipe, it's about further distancing himself in the conversation as the greatest heavyweight of all time. And for Francis Ngannou, it's a matter of him really exploding and being something that we may not have seen in the heavyweight division since Brock Lesnar. Because a guy that knocks people out like Francis does, he garners more attention than your normal heavyweight champion. So a lot at stake tomorrow night.
Yeah, you have so much experience with Stipe, obviously. I'm just curious, I mean, how much of an ability did you see in him to change fight to fight?
I mean, he was better. Fight 1 and 2, he seemed pretty similar. But fight 3, he was a better fighter. He was faster. Him and his coaches came up with a great game plan. He created more angles. It seemed like he had built a fight game plan specific to the small octagon, right? He was gone in a lot of places where he was at before. He was more distant. He knew how to find areas to be safe. And he's going to have to do all those things tomorrow night against Francis Ngannou.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is, like, how much different do you think he needs to be, right? Because, you know, he dominated the first fight, right? But
yes,
all the talk is, yeah, but it's a different Francis now. You know what I mean? It's going to be.
But that's the thing. How do we know? Right? Like, how do we know that it's a different Francis? You want to take him at his word. Francis is a great guy. He's a great fighter. And he has pulled himself up by his bootstraps out of Africa to become one of the best heavyweights in the world. But if he doesn't win the belt tomorrow, then that's what he's going to be. Just one of the best heavyweights in the world. It's a guy that wasn't the champion. So he's to be commended for what he's done. But tomorrow he's going to have to show a different level to his game to beat Stipe Miocic. Stipe is that good. He's got to be more careful early than he was in fight 1. In fight 1, he was 35 years old, maybe 34. Him and I beat each other up for 3 fights. So he's got to be careful. And the octagon's small. He finds himself trapped against a big guy like Francis early, it could be lights out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Last thing for me, like, as you said, we don't know. Everybody says it's a new Francis. But at the end of the day, does this really boil down to just does Francis land the big shot? And is it really just that first round is where we're going to know exactly what's going on?
You know what's crazy is that when we did a thing this morning on the weigh-in show. It was like over and under, how long does the fight go? 1.5 rounds. And I'm like, well, you can't really answer that question without essentially picking the fight. Because if you say it's going to be a shorter than a round and a half, you think Francis is winning. If it goes longer, then Stipe has such a massive advantage. I think that's what it boils down to. The crazy thing about Francis and the way that him and Stipe match up, it almost feels like it's knockout or bust. Because Miocic has so much championship-level experience against the highest level of competition that he knows how to navigate those later rounds. Francis didn't show that ability in the first fight.
DC back here. Stipe came in pretty lighter than usual. I think it was like 234, something like that. Francis 263, I think, about 30-pound difference. What do you make about this massive weight difference in this title fight?
They were big. It was a big difference before. I mean, Stipe was 245 maybe the first time they fought, and Francis was like 265, but cutting to 265. Francis doesn't look like he's cutting anymore. He looks much more lean. He looks much healthier and much more fresh and vibrant as he goes into the rematch. You know, Miocic is used to fighting big guys. You know, so I don't think it's going to play that much of a difference. I just wonder if he's going to be able to use his size to wear on Francis as he did before, being that he's 10 pounds lighter than he was in the first fight.
DC, you just mentioned the smaller cage. In your mind, does that benefit Stipe, who wants the grappling, or Francis, who can just explode and close the distance?
I honestly believe that it plays to Francis's benefit a little bit early. Again, it's a tale of 2 fights, man. It's 6 minutes maybe where the danger is like extremely high. The danger is as daunting as anything you can ever think of. It's like being locked in a cage with a tiger, right? How long can you survive? That's what you have to do when you fight Francis. How long can Stipe survive to start imposing himself into the fight? Early, this small octagon plays to Francis. Because when he starts to go downhill, terrifying sight. You saw it against Jairzinho Rosenstrike, right? It started off a bit slow. Francis made up his mind that he was just going to go. And when he did, the fight was over 5 seconds later, right? So there's just not much room to run as the smaller guy.
It's funny you mentioned that fight because this camp we've heard from Francis' team that he's learning to be slower, learning to take his time. But then in his last fight, he just decided to end it.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a risk that when he's in the cage, sees Stipe in front of him, he just forgets to take it slow and just does the exact same thing?
Well, he has an atom bomb, right? He has the power. So what would make Francis question whether or not he can knock out a man? Not being able to knock Stipe out the first time. But when you go back and you beat Cain Velasquez and you beat Jairzinho and you beat JDS and you beat there was one more in there that he beat very fast.
Blades.
Yeah, you beat Curtis Blades again. Why would you not think that you can knock out Stipe? So reality is fight one for Francis is the anomaly. The norm is what happens to most people. Let's see if he can find a way to stay within himself. I don't think he can. And honestly, I don't think he should. I think he should try to blitz Stipe and really try to take him out of there. Because I don't know if he wins a fight over 25 minutes.
It might not be the same as winning in the cage, but do you feel a little bit better now that you beat Stipe on EA UFC 4?
We're 2-2 now, baby. We're 2. I'm back in the game. I told him, I said, I can't beat you in the real world. You beat me in the last couple in the real world. I'm old. I'm beat up. I can't fight like I used to. But on this video game, for a second there, it looked scary. The dude was beating me. I was like, what is going on? Like, I hadn't played the game in a while, But my guy punched. Hey, when you're the ratings adjuster, I've got some hidden characteristics in that game that I may not possess in the real world, so I was able to get a knockout.
Before your second and third fight with Stipe, it was pretty clear that the two of you were getting on each other's nerves, and there was a bit of a rivalry there. But it seems now, seeing you on the embedded and seeing that seems to have gone away, right? It's not the same as with John, where it's going to be there forever. With Stipe, I feel like you're back to where you were before the first fight.
Stipe beat me. And Stipe didn't get suspended after. Stipe beat me, and Stipe didn't have any issues with his testing or anything. So why would I have issues with a guy that beat me? You guys everybody wonders why can't you be friends with Jones? To not play fair, it leaves a lasting impression on a person's career. If he had just beaten me, I've lost before, lost 1,000 times in wrestling. I have no issues with anybody, but you got to play fair. So when you don't play fair, it does such damage to someone's career. That's why. So for all the other stuff, right, all the back and forth from the before, had we done that and he had played fair, we still would have been okay. Because Stipe and I were very mad at each other. We were irritated because fights were taking longer to get booked. It was bad. We both had issues with being like we deserved to get those extra fights, right? Didn't matter, though. At the end of the day, Stipe is a good guy. He's a great father and husband. He's a great heavyweight champion. I have nothing but respect for the guy, and all that stuff is in the past. He just won the fights.
Last one from me. Do you think it benefits... Which fighter does it benefit more? The fact that Francis hasn't been able to compete in a while, or the fact that Stipe's coming off a 5-round back and forth with yourself?
Well, I think anytime you get to spend time in the cage at a high level, right? We fought a great fight. It benefits you. But I think Francis is refreshed. He's been nipping at the bud. And honestly, who is he going to fight? He's knocked everybody out. Like, he's pretty much... It's crazy when you get a number one contender that's essentially cleared out the division himself. Right? It's not like he has not beaten just about everybody. So it's a big fight. Both guys have advantages, but I think the experiences of those title fights can't help Miocic.
Thanks, man.
Daniel, how are you?
How are you, Mark?
I know that it seems like everything with you and Stipe is kind of water under the bridge now, but I'm just curious, have you guys actually sat down and talked about everything and kind of hashed it all out?
No, there's no need for that, right? We're professionals. I texted with Stipe a few weeks ago, but that was it. Just a few things to discuss. But listen, Stipe and I will never be best friends, but we're cordial and we're professionals. And if we got to, hey, listen. I'm on the bad end of the rivalry. So now getting to play a video game and hoping to even it up is all to my benefit. So I just try to even it. I'm quitting. I'll never play him again because he's so competitive. He'll probably go practice and try to challenge me again.
What did you text him about?
I should have quit when I was ahead. I should have quit after the first fight.
What was the text exchange about?
Come on.
What?
I'm not going to tell you that. That's why basketball players pick their jersey up over their face whenever they're talking to each other, so that you guys don't get a hold of what they're talking about. No. Or me, actually. I'm one of you guys now. So that we don't get a hold of what they're talking about.
So come on, have a little camaraderie. Why don't you let us in on?
See, at least I'm still part of the fraternity, right? I start doing that, then I might as well sit there.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it. I'm just saying.
Last thing for me, more importantly, I need a prediction from you. Jake Paul versus Ben Askren. Who you got?
Man, let me tell you something. I'm scared for Ben, man. I'm scared. Ben said the other day, what are all these people doing at my fight, right? All these celebrities. Like, no, Ben, you're the odd guy out, right? Like, you're the old dude with the hip replacement. These are all the cool people from Hollywood. We're playing to these people. Man, I don't know. Ben's my guy. I love Ben. In a free fight, he beats Jake Paul every day. I don't know if he beats. Ben lost to Damian Maia in boxing. We've never seen Damian outbox anybody in his whole entire career. And we've watched him fight for 12 years, or 15 years maybe. So, very worrisome for me. But I'm rooting Ben Askren, because Ben Askren, we may not have chose him, but Ben Askren's our representative into that world. So, go kick his ass, Ben.
Thanks, Daniel.
No problem.
If you could have picked a representative, who would you pick?
To go box?
For box Jake Paul.
Box Jake Paul? Oh, there's a number of guys. I'd send Francis out there. Francis, go knock this kid's head off. Like, please. Just go and punch him as hard as you can. No, I mean, what's he weigh? Like 200 pounds, 190 pounds, this kid? So, 185, I'd send, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even send a big guy. We could send welterweights to beat Jake Paul probably. But, we have a number of guys. Adesanya would beat him. Maybe Paulo Costa would beat him. Those guys can beat him. Guys that can box and strike could beat Jake Paul. It's just that Ben doesn't really box. Ben almost became a world champion. Think about that. After he beat Robbie Lawler, Ben Askren was on the cusp of a title fight and really can just wrestle. So, hats off to Ben Askren.
Did you ever hear from Paulo Costa, by the way?
No, I didn't. Thank God. I'm glad Paulo Costa I'm glad I haven't been around him, because for a while he was like my main target to make fun of. But when you say stuff like he says, that's what happens.
Hey, DC, congratulations on 1 year of your show over at ESPN.
Thank you.
You've obviously been at the desk for a long time now, but has there been anything that you've learned about talking about the guys in that particular medium that you didn't before?
Yeah, that fighters are very sensitive. Fighters are sensitive, like very sensitive. And, but it's not just fighters. When Stephen A. talks about Kevin Durant is mad. When he it's just athletes. Athletes don't like to hear the negative. But the reality is there's always going to be negative. You will never please everyone. And we, the talking heads, as we're called, we're paid to talk about you. So you better hope that we're talking about you, because the moment we stop, you become irrelevant. And then that's the real problem. So you want us all discussing. If a Monday comes and you're on the topic, if you're the topic, you better be happy, because there's going to be a time where nobody's talking about you, and there will be no articles, there will be no interviews, and that's your biggest enemy. So instead of being upset about what's being said, just be happy that these people with these platforms are speaking about you and keeping you at the forefront of media. Because, I do a show, and every Monday, it's an hour show, and there are multiple articles about that show. So be happy about that.
You've had a decorated career inside the cage. You talk about just being one of the guys. As your broadcast career grows, what goals do you have?
Oh, I've got some. I've got a lot of projects in the books, man, and I'm just enjoying my time. I've got things outside of fighting. I've got some things outside of MMA, but I love this game. I love the UFC. I love fighting. I love being around fighting. So regardless of the opportunities that are coming, I don't think I'll ever be away from this. But I tell you one thing. It's a very exciting time in my life when I do my show on Monday, but over the course of the next week, I am dealing with things outside of mixed martial arts in terms of media, because that's what I've always wanted to do. So I'm lucky. And I I feel like this next act is going to be very big.
In terms of being media, what would be the thing that you would consider, if winning the UFC title is it in fighting, what is winning the title in media to you?
I mean, I don't know, because for me it's different, right? The baselines are so much higher than normal people. Some people say, well, if I can get on TV, it's a win. Well, I was doing that before I even quit fighting. I've been on TV since I was a young man. To work for ESPN, maybe the end-all, be-all. Well, before I retired, I was working for ESPN. Just continuing to grow, continuing to commit myself to this as much as I did fighting. And as I continue to do that, the opportunities are showing that I'm going in the right direction.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.